Recently, I made a video about the situation with Sony PlayStation and their abandonment of physical media. To have a visual while I discussed the subject, I took a selection of Blu-ray movies and placed them on the table next to me. Now, people in the comments on YouTube will find something to complain about every time. These are the same people, by the way, that claim to fight for positivity. Fun fact. Sure enough, there was this one guy who drew knives and tried to fillet me for one of the Blu-rays on display. It was the disc for an anime comedy series called Haganai, a series that I'm very fond of and have been studying intently for a dedicated video I'm currently preparing for the channel. This guy went off on me, claiming that having that Blu-ray amounted to a kind of hypocrisy in light of the comments I had made several years ago in my video analysis of Neon Genesis Evangelion, a series for which I made it clear I have nothing but contempt. He insisted that my accusations toward the series' questionable material, which includes depictions of underage grooming, abuse, narcissistic violence and murder, and various types of on minors, were now invalid because of the Haganai Blu-ray present on that table. Now, before we even get into the main event of this argument, I need to point out this curiosity. I find it funny that given this person knows I make videos about media from time to time, as he's aware of my Evangelion piece, would it not stand to reason that I have to have the media to review said film or series, regardless of how I feel about it? I own Evangelion on Blu-ray and DVD because I studied both dubs of the series as well as the original language subtitles before writing my script for the video. I loathe the series, yet I have the media because I did the video. Let's pretend for a moment that I didn't like Haganai as well. I would still need the media to do the video analysis. So why is having the media somehow an invalidation of either video production or either position on the respective media? Short answer, it isn't. And Dude Man was just getting fanboy emotional.
Absolutely not!
It appears Rika has accidentally stepped on a landmine.
Funnier still is that the video is titled A Love-Hate Relationship, the second in a series that began with my Rogue One review, where I openly call out media I enjoy that has marked problems. This should come as no surprise to anyone, given I've made fun of my own favorite toy lines and franchises, and even criticized my own family members in videos over the years. There is no nostalgia here, and nothing is sacred, but binary fanboy thinking can't comprehend that. However, this guy specifically stated that Haganai has an infamous scene in it of a brother and a sister getting too close, biblically. I've seen the series through at least 5 times, if not more, in both the original language and the English dub.
Holy shit. You can say that again. Okay, holy shit.
I've also read the manga and the light novel source. What was this guy talking about? Come to find out, he was referring to a scene in one episode where a rather naive character in the cast, who has become obsessed with dating sim games, is discovered by the rest of the club to be playing an erotic game that's clearly depraved and disturbing. She's convinced it's normal and totally appropriate and should be respected right alongside the other media they've watched in the club room. However, the club leader reads her the riot act for having this smut in their vicinity and forces her to read the dialogue in the game out loud. The scene culminates with her being shamed by the club leader and running from the room in tears. So, as you can probably imagine, I wasn't sure how one scene in an irreverent bawdy comedy series that went so far as to humiliate the player of the game for its content could in any way compare to the entirety of the material and overall tone of Evangelion. Now, I want to be clear. This video is not about whether you like or hate Evangelion, nor whether you like or hate Haganai. It's about whether you exhibit honesty and credibility in a discussion about any topic, particularly those topics where you are the person raising the challenge and going on the attack.
You twisted twat face with pudding for brains!
Oh, jeez, Rika, what the hell was that for?
Unfortunately, this guy proceeded to first imply that my description of the scene was tantamount to the tactic of saying you just read Playboy for the articles. It was a cheap move, a glib hand wave that attempted to label the series as prurient and myself as some kind of deviant trying to make excuses. I knew something smelled, given how he was trying to mic drop on me, yet the attempts were all such massive miscalculations. And then, the other shoe dropped.
As sure as the turning of the earth.
This high and mighty self-righteous white knight for Evangelion flat out admitted he's never seen a single minute of Haganai.
Why do you lie?
including the scene he claimed was so infamous.
So what made you think you could get away with this little stunt, huh?
I thought you guys would be too dumb to figure it out.
In a further bluster of self-inflicted inefficacy, he said all he'd ever seen was a meme floating around. A meme. A single image with no context, no possible way to comprehend intent or execution.
Oh, it's fine if you don't get caught. Looks like the only dumb one here is you, Missy.
This fanboy started an argument on a very flimsy false equivalency, knowing he'd not seen 1 second of the media he was wagging in my face, and his fallback position was to exclaim, But the memes! And again, this has nothing to do with opinions about either series. If you love Evangelion, great. Now let's focus on the important aspect here. The guy was mad about my take on Evangelion. His emotions about the series and his contrasting emotions about my analysis compelled him to attempt a gotcha Hadoken on me when he saw the Haganai Blu-ray. Because a trivial meme that granted him bogus knowledge about a series he knew he'd never seen gave him some kind of misplaced confidence. With only this meme and the power of my emotions, I will win this fight. His attempt to claim that I was some kind of perv in the equation, and in essence in the very same camp he believed I'd put Eva fans, was a spectacular backfire, as Haganai makes a point of satirizing Evangelion and making the character of Rika the Eva fan. See, Rika is the unashamed perv in the Haganai cast.
If you bring those points up, you'll get yourself up.
And all the elements of Eva mech battles are shown as sex metaphors, with Rika in Asuka's red pressure suit. So this guy failed further by not realizing that in the universe of Haganai, Evangelion is a franchise for freaks. What makes this really hilarious is I edited a scene from Haganai into the Evangelion RetroBlasting video to make a broader point about the Hideaki Anno series, and it just so happens to be the very same episode and the beginning of the very same scene. The content of his storied meme takes place mere seconds after the end of the sequence that I modified for the Evangelion video.
You played it for her, you play it for me.
Well, I don't think I can remember.
If she can stand it, I can. Play it.
Rika's going to watch Neon Genesis Evangelion. It arrived in the mail just yesterday.
Seriously, what makes you think we'd let you watch that garbage in here?
Neon Genesis Evangelion isn't garbage. The title may be kind of weird and the creator is certifiable, but all the naughtier parts are in the movie.
Get that thing out of my face right now.
See? I told you, it's not a porno.
Fine, it's not but any movie with that creepy a title and a cover like that is bound to be messed up.
Come on, Asuka, help me, come on!
Huh?
But then again, he probably didn't even know he was watching a Haganai clip when it played, and definitely didn't know it was the very scene that whatever meme originated from. Now let's consider my knowledge status going into this confrontation. I had watched the Evangelion series several times over, including the various dubs, the movie, and the rebuild films. I had taken copious notes on these for my video. I had also acquired and watched other anime works of Anno's, Gunbuster, and His and Her Circumstances. And I had watched numerous documentaries and interviews with Anno. Presently in the midst of developing the Haganai video, I have likewise studied the series, and in this case had read the original source material and the succeeding manga adaptation. The guy had leveled an accusation at me that I was a newbie to anime, and therefore my assessment of Evangelion should be called into question. Funny though how media analysis is its own lane, regardless of the medium being analyzed. I didn't leave any crucial stone unturned in my work on the Evangelion video from the position of a viewer, and my experience in reading film and media is not that of a novice. What I'm saying is, where does the newbie label slap harder? On the person new to a medium within entertainment, or on the person who hasn't seen a lick of the actual piece of media they're discussing? So a guy with his emotions about a series and a meme about another was in one corner, and in the other corner was a guy with no fandom for Evangelion but a lot of research into the series and an equal amount of study into Haganai. It's amazing to me how we now live in a world where the less you know, the more confident you are in your own perceptions of your invincibility and your chances for victory. Fandom has truly adopted the Elmer Fudd principle of gravity, but I guess that's not surprising these days.
Frankly, ignorance is the best policy.
There's something in the air as entropy takes hold where humans suddenly feel like they don't have to hide or deny their bullshit anymore. The veil called shame seems to be coming down in every corner of society these days. Billionaires have openly admitted they want to give all of our jobs to computers. Corporations have admitted they don't want us to own anything and instead feel entitled to each take a monthly draw out of our dwindling personal earnings. Healthcare insurers have literally put a price on our souls with no remorse. Hell, they've even declared we don't have a natural right to clean drinking water. And fanboys have come out swinging about the pride they take in abhorring even the idea of critical thinking when it comes to anything on this planet. I recently had someone tell me without a moment's hesitation that all he cared about in a movie was bright colors, the characters' costumes being correct, and the popcorn being available to shovel into his mouth. I mean, society's joked for decades about people who only respond to the bright lights and moving images being the dimwits among us, but I could never have predicted they'd start shouting it out from street corners as a point of unironic pride.
Many of them, of course, with no understanding of the sport itself, but nonetheless fascinated by the flickering images and the bright, pretty colors.
Nor could I have anticipated the exponentially increasing number of them sticking their heads up over the fence the farther into middle age Generation X and the millennials have gotten. It seems the wisdom that was traditionally attributed to age has been replaced with a kind of willful, aggressive idiocy that isn't just content with their positivity at any price worldview as individuals, but they have devolved into a force that goes to war with anything they deem as analytical thinking. The crimes against positivity in their minds are no longer simply saying mean insults, but now extend to mere discussions about the quality of a piece of writing or filmmaking on a basic level. They hand-wave away any observation of glaring errors or avoidable imperfections as hate, and were it up to them, the standards would be so low they would collapse through the cellar floor on the heads of these fanboys who would probably say they enjoy sitting in the pile of debris. They've taken pride in having no standards, because having standards is now a critical attack on the deity they worship known as joy. Meanwhile, you'll also hear fandom culture increasingly use the word lore as the central focus of their interests and their often main excuse for why writing and filmmaking standards don't matter to them. I'm more about the lore and less about the continuity. What's most important in a movie isn't how much it makes sense, but how it makes me feel. These are actual quotes thrown at me over the past couple of years, similar to hundreds of others around this topic. What broke my brain hearing these perspectives, delivered with unbelievable confidence, is that, for one, lore is just a dorky word for continuity, but they don't seem to realize that. For them, lore is separate and distinct from storytelling and filmmaking continuity, even though you can't have narrative lore without proper continuity by definition. And having poor storytelling and poor filmmaking lowers the overall quality of the lore that a franchise can produce. Their willingness to tolerate stories that have massive plot holes and often don't hold up to basic scrutiny of narrative logic flies in the face of their claim to value lore above most everything else. But more often than not, they'll even ditch their beloved ideas of lore in favor of how a piece of media makes them feel. They don't stop to consider how that piece of media will come across on repeat viewings, where their feelings might lessen if the movie doesn't hold up. They don't give a moment's consideration of how a poor story is something not everyone enjoys, that plot holes and lazy filmmaking can actually lessen the enjoyment of a viewer. Most of the time, they see themselves as more highly evolved in their ability to ignore, disregard, and deflect any observable issues with a piece of media. It's pretty amazing to consider that the lowering of the veil of shame has come full circle for pop culture fandom into a total Dunning-Kruger effect. My inability to think critically and my hostility toward critical thinking isn't a bug, it's a feature. I don't see it as a deficiency, but an ability a critical thinker simply doesn't have. I can turn my brain off, and that makes me superior, even though I've never demonstrated that I have any willingness or capability to ever turn my brain on. My brain works better than yours because I don't use it. I keep it in mint condition. But I suppose this was the inevitable endgame from the internet-born argument that feelings and beliefs should be given just as much value and agency as knowledge and facts. Your feelings and beliefs about flying airplanes won't get you a pilot's license. That's only issued to the person who gained the knowledge and devoted themselves to gaining experience.
Spring chicken to shite hawk in one easy lesson.
Now, you can sit here and say that you can't compare a pilot's license to opinions about movies. And yes, when measuring how crucial it is for someone to be knowledgeable about flying versus knowledgeable about screenwriting, it's absolutely true that lacking knowledge about assessing media won't get you killed like lacking knowledge in piloting an airplane. But in both conversations, the person shouting down critical thinking and taking pride in their ignorance comes off as supremely stupid. They're both nosedives, just very different kinds. While your ignorance is not a crucial element of survival with pop culture topics, your pride in your ignorance makes you look just as much the clod as you would with any other area of knowledge. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing things. None of us can know everything. But a lack of curiosity combined with an aggressive defense of preferring stupidity? That's where you become insufferable, and you reveal your worldview as having no merit. Yet the most interesting aspect of this fandom phenomenon is the direct correlation between how little you know about a topic and the readiness with which you'll start arguments and fights about that topic.
We're all thankful for your mercy.
The number of people who start these online gunfights only for the attacked to quickly realize the aggressor came out into the street with no ammunition would be hilarious if it wasn't so frustrating.
Nice try, kid, but I think you just brought a knife to a gunfight.
The evidence has been mounting for years that our society has tipped over into a celebration of ignorance, where reading is now a dead activity. The less you know, the more superior you believe yourself to be. And the open admission that our culture begins punishing critical thinkers as early as grade school, thereby teaching generation after generation of conforming kids that when they are adults, they should also toss critical thinkers aside as outcasts, haters, and negative troublemakers, even as they wonder why the world works less and less like it should with each passing decade. And speaking of how the world is assumed to work, I didn't think it was possible for a sniper to snipe themselves. But this guy proved me wrong. For in his oh-so-carefully precise aim, he had no clue he was affirming the very material he was ignorant toward, and played the role to the letter, accusing a series of being no different in its trappings and cultural guilt than the media he demanded be shown equal respect.
This is so unfair!
What's wrong now, fanboy?
Don't act like you don't know! You're always slamming Evangelion and calling it creepy as hell! What makes Michael's comedy show any better?
Haganai is a body comedy that takes the piss out of everything. Don't compare it to the manic nihilism of Evangelion.
Only to have his cluelessness challenged in a public forum by the person he was trying to pin a badge of depravity on in defense of his fellow Evangelion weebs.
You're an anime newbie, so how would you know?
If your precious Evangelion is so appropriate, then try describing one of the scenes out loud for us. Why don't you do the one you're on right now? Judging by your expression, you can't wait to share it.
Foolishly, like Senna in Haganai, he did not have the knowledge, and he failed to consider context. And what separates Evangelion and Haganai is a chasm's worth of context, just as an equally large vacuum of knowledge separated him from his target.
This particular scene isn't the most accurate representation of Evangelion.
That doesn't matter. I could describe any scene from Haganai and it would still seem normal compared to anything in Evangelion.
He fired the shot, then raced ahead of it 1,000 yards and jumped into the path of the bullet with perfect precision.
Now, describe a scene from your flawless science fiction show. What's wrong, fanboy? If there's nothing to be ashamed of, then you've got nothing to be afraid of. The description of this scene should do nicely. Whenever you're ready. Go on. Do it. Now!
Shinji stands over the hospital bed of this conscious girl and locks the door and her until her clothes and then he off over her into his own hand. There, I freaking said it!
I'm sure there's a meme in there somewhere, but I'd rather read the book first.
You're